the unbreakable signs joke. I think that's honestly one of the funniest jokes we've had on Death Battle in terms of just in the animation.
Also, Yuji is definitely not having kids after that one.
Well, after both of them. Yeah. Hey, what's going on, you guys, and welcome back to That's a Wrap. My name is the Rappter, and joining us today on the podcast, we have two of our highest tier channel members. First up, we have Apex, one of the moderators of the Discord server, actually. He's been on the show a couple times before. Great to have you back. How are you doing, Apex?
I can't complain too much. Things are going pretty well right now, and I do not have a joke for the intro because I forgot to write one.
That's okay. It's okay. We weren't going to find it funny anyway. And also joining us today, we have Floof, another one of our channel members. First time ever on the show. How are you doing, Floof?
I'm doing pretty alright. I'm here in Britain where we survived a stupid ass heat wave.
Oh, great. Yeah. It's been hot, like, seemingly everywhere. Like, I'm from Canada, so it's not quite as bad, but, like, yeah, it's been really, really hot the last few days comparatively. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it was peaking around 30 plus degrees over here, which is like nearing 90 plus Fahrenheit.
Right, I was about to say, he's talking in Celsius for all you guys who don't understand that. Yeah, but yeah, great to hear you guys are doing good. And thank you, of course, so much for joining the podcast and for being channel members. And for anyone listening, if you want to become a channel member and get in on a lot of cool perks, there is the join button down below, or you can just subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. But either way, today we are going to be talking about the episodes that have come out so far in Death Battle 2026. We're going to be ranking them. We're going to be casually reviewing them. It's honestly less of a review and more just saying the things that we've liked about the episodes or the things maybe we haven't liked as much or just about the season, so to speak, as a whole. So that's the main thing that we're going to be doing for this, and we're all going to have a lot of different opinions. It's going to be a really fun conversation. Of course, you guys can leave your own opinions down in the comments. And for anyone wondering, I am likely going to give an update to this ranking, at the end of the year when all the episodes are done, as I usually do. But I figured, why not do it for now? Things will probably change by the time we get there, but at least for the time being, for all the episodes that are out, I will give a ranking, as will everyone else here. So are you guys ready to go?
I'm pretty good.
Yep.
All right, great. So obviously the best place to start is talking about our favorite aspects of the episodes and the season so far. So yeah, you're basically just talking about what you liked about the episodes themselves, or aspects of the episodes, or aspects of the whole season. So Apex, we'll start with you. What have you liked so far about Death Battle 2026?
Well, easily, I think this has been one of the best seasons we've had so far, especially with the indie era. It feels like they're finally getting back into their comfort zone, making things work again.
Okay.
Even if there are a couple technical issues every now and then. Easily my favorite episode would be Ichigo versus Yusuke. I feel like it just had some of the best characterization we've seen in an episode.
Okay, that's
I
great.
love seeing particularly Yusuke's adaptability in a fight, like using the two spirit guns at once right after seeing Ichigo use two whatever anime whatchamacallit at once. I forgot.
Favorite episode, by the way.
Favorite episode, by the way, and I can't name crap about it. It was just very interesting. I really liked the sprite style. It felt very unique, very different from the typical sprite episodes we've gotten.
Okay.
My favorite moment of it was probably the contrast between Yusuke rejecting Ryzen and Ichigo actually accepting Zangetsu. It just created this really cool contrast between their sort of bonds with each other and how Ichigo had that closer bond, which you can argue was kind of what gave him that thematic victory.
Right, yeah. And it's really cool to see like a character actually reject the power-up that usually they would just get to in the animation regardless. They're like, no, screw that,
exactly.
I'm doing it myself. Like, yeah, that's something you don't see in Death Battle all the time. That was really cool.
The only things I feel really draw it back was the death. It felt like a little bit anticlimactic, but I feel like everything building up towards it is a good trade-off and makes it worth it. Also, just the fact that it came a bit late, honestly. Like, there was just no doubt in really, like, anyone's mind that Yusuke could take this as much as I wanted him to after, like, what was it? 1,000 Year Blood?
Well, 1,000 Year
Favorite
Blood War
episode,
is
by the way, and I
Bleach.
can't name crap about it.
1,000 Year Blood War is the Bleach arc, yeah. This was something I was saying, even back in my prediction, that, like, while the hype for this matchup has like been around for a very long time and kind of still was around, the debatability, unfortunately, has very much fallen below, like that it is not on par with the level of hype in the way that it once was, or once could have been, right? Which is a little disappointing. I do think that all other things being equal, debatable fights are better than non-debatable fights, which means I think that the quality of the matchup, generally speaking, kind of just got worse and worse. But it is still nice to see that they eventually did it, and they did it in the way that they did it, you know?
Yeah.
This is officially my first proper season, and so far it has been quite good. Of course, as someone who's got particular tastes, I'll admit, I'm preferring a lot more of the proper 3D animation and like full-on animation. Sprite battles can be good, but they're not necessarily my favorite.
Fair enough.
Which is why I can definitely say amongst the cream of the crop for this season have been stuff like Cell versus Metal. The full animation for that is phenomenal, without a doubt. Sadly, farewell Devil Artemis for that one.
Thank you, Devil Artemis.
Yes, absolutely. He went off in a bang. And also Denji versus Yuji. That one is phenomenal animation-wise.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard, personally, I think, to top that one when it comes to the animation. But who knows? Who knows? We could be seeing something special in the next episode, for all we know. And also the music. I've become kind of semi-obsessed with watching the older depots. Like, I've been catching up and seeing how like the show's progressed, and that's of course included some of the music. And I've put quite a lot of the music on my playlist, including some of the ones from this season.
Yeah, there are some tracks in this season I've definitely liked, like Soul Outsider and Infernal Combustion are probably the ones I've enjoyed the most.
But yeah, no, definitely. The season's going off to a great start. It's great to see that Death Battle isn't, gone despite everything that's happened.
Yeah, or phoning it in or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, the analysis as well. I think analysis has for this season, especially for a lot of matchups, because I can guarantee you, for some of them, for example, I've got to put my foot down. I basically knew nothing about Superboy Prime and pretty much nothing about Sentry. Oh my god, learning about Prime might have been the most enjoyable analysis that we've had on the show this season.
Yeah, and just as a whole episode, like, what a fucking surprise that matchup was. Like, just as far as what we got out of it, right?
Especially after learning, like, that you guys haven't had a death battle of Marvel vs. DC in 3 years.
Yeah, well, of
that's
course,
crazy.
Part
to
of that
me.
is because of the independent, pre-Kickstarter break. That's part of it, so that's a little understandable. But yeah, even without that, it's been a while, and a lot of people are in agreement that like the Marvel vs. DC episodes that came out before, or at least more recently, like in 2023 and beforehand, not a lot of them have been anything special. So the fact that we do now have a Marvel vs. DC episode that I would personally argue is very special is very good for me, is something I'm very appreciative to say.
I have to agree on that full-heartedly.
And as far as my opinions on the best stuff, yeah, it's basically just overlapping with some of the stuff you guys said. Like, yes, Cell versus Metal, I think that was great in basically every regard. The animation was great. The analyses I felt were like as thorough as they needed to be. They went over a lot of good information. It's like probably the most accurate Sonic verse analysis that we've seen so far, and I think it was very accurate for Cell as well. Going into it, I wasn't a huge fan of the matchup, of course, and I still believe that the debate is kind of pointless, just based on the other Sonic and Dragon Ball characters that we've seen, and the fact that, like, Metal Sonic is literally a Sonic-level character versus a guy who is very, very, very below a Goku-level character, and people argue that Sonic versus Goku is debatable, so it's like, what the hell are we doing with this one, But of course, like, yeah, it did, like, the things that it needed to do. Like, a lot of people were saying, I want this matchup because it's cool and because it has aura, and you know what? It was very cool, and it did have a lot of aura, so it's like...
Oh, absolutely.
It did the things that, like, it does best, I guess is what I'm saying. So, yeah, Cell versus Metal, definitely a standout for this season. And also Yuji versus Denji. I thought that when I was watching the animation, I did think the animation took, like, me, like, a second to get used to, I would say. But as it went on, like, it definitely stepped it up. And I think, yeah, it's potentially the best animation we've had so far this season. Like, I think I would say that it's a little better than Cell versus Metal as far as the quality of animation. I do think the analyses maybe could have been a little better. There were some people who were like really harping on the analyses for Yuji versus Denji or the conclusion and basically saying like, oh, it's just full of misinformation, or they explained why Denji won in like all the wrong ways. And I'm like, okay, maybe let's calm down with that. I would not go that far. I do think maybe there are some better ways they could have explained some things, or some things they could have expanded on the reasoning. So I think overall I like the analyses a little bit more in Cell versus Metal, because, you know, I think it's just a little more all-encompassing, a little more just like, it has everything it needs to have. But Yuji versus Denji as an overall production is still really great. Like, the character and series writing in Yuji versus Denji is great. Just the way they describe the characters and the series and, you know, the themes and all that. And like I said, you know, Sentry versus Prime, this is probably the episode I have thought about the most since it's come out. And that's saying something, because at the time of this recording, it only came out like 4 days ago. But I have not been able to get it out of my mind, you know? Like, it, again, such a surprise of an episode. I love how thorough it is. I love how it feels like it has the energy and the effort of like a really big, you know, important death battle that we just haven't gotten before in Marvel versus DC episodes, at least not lately. So, you know, if we can expect this level of quality and energy in future Marvel versus DC episodes, I am now hungry for more of those, because as a big comic fan, this is very refreshing, and I'm excited to see if we can get more stuff like this. So I would say overall, those are like my standouts of the season so far. And just to talk about like specific moments, like the ending for Yuji versus Denji, like, you know, just the curse as a brother, you know, that's something you don't see ever. Like, that was a very nice moment. And also the Void coming out by like essentially ripping Sentry in half. Jesus Christ, what a shot that was.
That was something, to say the least. Mm-hmm. There are 5-year-olds that have been traumatized.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is the kind of effort that, like, I don't think we've seen in a Marvel versus DC episode in a while. Like, it's like they knew how to give one of these episodes the sauce that I feel like was sorely lacking for these kinds of episodes before. So, again, as just a fanboy, Sentry versus Prime makes me very, very happy. So, you know, it's very special to me.
And hearing you happy is a very good thing.
Aw, thank you. Now let's move on to what we enjoyed the least. So again, this can be about a specific episode, it could be aspects of an episode, it could be whatever you want, but just the things that you enjoyed the least about this season.
Honestly, I don't really have that many issues with this year as a whole, possibly because I'm just generally not very cynical as others when it comes to Death Battle.
That's
like,
impressive.
That
is a rarity.
Yeah, I just mainly find what I enjoy, and I'm not too passionate about what I don't enjoy.
Perfect.
And I'll usually have my own little nitpicks or whatever, but ultimately doesn't deter me too much.
Mm-hmm. Like, you genuinely don't enjoy something, you're allowed to not enjoy it. But like, I feel like also trying to force yourself to get angry about stuff is like, that's just very counterproductive.
I feel like people get a little too passionate when it comes to like what they dislike in this and refuse to look at some of the cooler aspects of it.
Yeah.
Mainly a lot of people have issues with the verdict. In terms of least favorite episodes, unfortunately, it's undoubtedly Gru versus Megamind. I was very hyped for it, and it did end up very disappointing. Like, the analysis kind of felt very bare bones, especially Gru's. It only, like, covered the first movie story-wise, and then it kind of just went into, look at all these weapons he has, and it's like, I feel like they kind of just really struggled to balance story and versus jargon. In terms of the animation itself, like, I get the appeal of it. I just personally didn't find the jokes too funny, and that being traded off in terms of like actual fight and like sort of animation, I just don't think it was worth it, especially when so much of it ended up being them kind of just standing still and talking. Like, there's a surprising amount of that for what's like supposed to be like a few minute death battle animation.
I suppose, yeah.
Besides that, just to throw in a little bit of positive, the ending of that episode was perfect, though, just gotta say.
the ending of the animation?
Yeah, the ending of the animation, like, the fact that it was this all, like, misunderstanding that was incredibly easy to avoid. It feels very in character.
I was about to say, feels very appropriate for these guys.
Yeah, it's like one of the few jokes in the animation I did genuinely find really funny. Beyond that, there's like, they are definitely taking Death Battle animations into a different direction. Like, there's a greater narrative focus than there ever has been before, which I think is ultimately a good thing, but
Yeah.
I feel like we've been seeing some of the drawbacks of that this season's, and it's something they're gonna kind of have to learn how to balance with future seasons.
Okay, I'm gonna immediately say it. I also agree. Gru vs. Megamind is definitely the least favorable episode this season, without a doubt. I felt like I was excited for it, and then I'm not even gonna lie. I think I saw the sneak peek for it. I think a lot of people have the same thoughts of, oh, that animation looks interesting.
Okay.
And we got to the actual battle, and I will agree, it definitely isn't the greatest, especially when you contrast it to, say, the fact that we just got Yuji versus Denji after it as well now. Not even just that, but we also had like Cell versus Metal as well prior. It's like the differing quality definitely didn't help it to some regards.
All a matter of comparison. Yeah.
I will at least throw at this one bone when it comes to that animation, and that's that I will praise the presentation scene. That was well done.
Say that again.
I will give them that. The presentation.
There you go.
But otherwise, yeah, no, it's definitely my least favorite. Analysis wise as well, it was kind of a bit all over. I think a lot of comments will immediately start to make sense when I say this. The fact that Megamind had so many anti-feats that it basically killed his chances in the death battle really did just hamper a lot of the kind of mental enjoyment I can have for that battle, I feel. Now, here's the funny thing. We haven't mentioned literally one episode, and that's Bakugo versus Reze, and I think that's I think that's incredibly telling.
I was gonna mention something like this actually when it got to my turn, but I'll let you speak first.
I don't mind the analysis. The analysis was alright. Obviously them highlighting like all of Bakugo's like various feats, all the different moves he has. Obviously emphasizing Reze and how like she's a very tragic character and whatnot. And obviously, boom. This is definitely one of Boomstick's best episodes.
Sure.
When it comes to like being Boomstick. It's half of his goddamn name. It is the Boomstick episode.
So when do we get the stick episode? We got the boom one. What's the stick one?
I don't know. When we find a character that uses just, I mean,
Donatello versus maybe Tim Drake. Did they both use like staffs, right? That's the stick episode.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, I think the battle just goes on too fast. Like, I know that's definitely the point, because they are very fast characters by definition. Like, with a click of the finger, it's just gone for me. And mainly, also, it's a sprite battle with that minor 3D aspect, like the part with Reze actually unpinning her collar. But other than that, yeah, I feel like it's definitely on the weaker end.
Right.
But at the same time, it does a little bit better than Gru vs. Megamind for me, even if I'm not so strong on it. And it's not his blood that she should be worrying about, it's his sweat.
That was very cool. That was something I didn't expect to actually implement into the animation, but that was very cool when that happened.
And obviously, it's very in nature of a Kachan to fucking say that stuff. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, just building off of Bakugo versus Reze for a second. Yeah, this is one where it's like, even more than like Cell versus Metal, I was not happy that this was the thing that got announced. You know, I wasn't looking forward to the build up and all that. I'm sure people already know that. And this is the first episode in a while where like, I can honestly say that like, it didn't really do much for me. Like, I didn't really come away with it with any like strong feelings or anything like that. Like, it's not that it's a bad episode, I definitely wouldn't say that, but like, it's the first episode in a while where like, after I saw it, I was kind of like, okay, that was definitely an episode of Death Battle, and then that was just kind of it for me. Just not a lot of strong feelings towards it. There weren't a lot of elements that were bad. Again, there was a lot of serviceable elements, but it did also feel very unnecessary on a few levels. Like with stuff like Ichigo versus Yusuke and Cell versus Metal, like those episodes are good to the point where like I can more excuse the matchups themselves. You know, the fact that they're like really one-sided and kind of feeling a little unnecessary. the Bakugo versus Reze was one where it was not good enough for me to be able to do that. Like, the fact that we had so much Chainsaw Man and so much My Hero Academia just across like last year and this year so close together, it's like, this very much felt like an episode where you could have easily removed it entirely, and it's like, it honestly would have made the spacing of the series usage a little better, and like, it very much felt like a combination where it's like, why do we even need to have this discussion, because we already know how these series work a little too well. Like, I don't know. I know this is mostly harbored towards the matchup itself and not like the production, but again, the production I just thought was fine. There weren't a lot of elements that really allowed me to enjoy it as much as a lot of the other episodes from this year or last year or whatnot. And I'm gonna defend Gru versus Megamind a little bit. I will agree that like, it is definitely on the lower end of these episodes, and like, there's definitely a lot of things they could have done better. I do think a lot of this has to do with expectations. I do think that a lot of people were expecting like a near Bowser versus Eggman level episode, and it obviously was nowhere near that as far as the quality, so that definitely hurt it a little bit. It did feel like a lot of elements kind of just needed a little more time in the oven. Like, if they just had a little more time to work on it, then, you know, maybe it could have been better, but it just felt like some things were rushed as far as the production. I will actually say that while I guess I can agree with the notion that the humor in the animation maybe wasn't as good as it could have been, I did appreciate the humor in the analyses. I think the humor overall was actually one of the better parts of the writing. There was some writing, like the conclusion and the analyses, that I thought could have been a lot better, but as far as like the humor and whatnot, I actually think they did a lot of that decently well, at least better than a lot of the other writing. The one thing where I kind of defend Gru versus Megamind a little bit is the fact that they just had to do so much custom work for this episode, where it's like, clearly that's where a lot of their time was being poured into in order to just make all the brain bots work, right? And like, that's something I understand.
Yeah.
But the thing that kind of worries me about this is the idea that, does that just mean there was no way Gru versus Megamind was going to be amazing? If they always needed to put that amount of time into that, it's like, so what, there are some matchups then where they would require so much custom work, there's no way they could be great episodes? If that's the case, should we really be hoping for them anymore? Because when I think about my most wanted matchups, or I think about upcoming episodes, I like to think about them in the best case scenario. But are there some matchups where they would just require so much custom work that they just couldn't turn out to be really, really good? That they would always be like Gru versus Megamind level? If that's the case, they would honestly make me excited for episodes a little less. And that's a little disappointing to realize, but like, I'm a little concerned about that like, clearly something like this episode can turn out so underwhelming just because of how much work they had to do on the custom stuff. That, is this something I should be keeping in mind when thinking about my most wanted death battles? Because if they're all just going to turn out at this quality, that's not great. So I think with that, then we can actually move on to our season rankings. So however you want to order it, from best to worst, worst to best, Apex, if you have the list on you right now, we'd love to hear it.
Worst is probably Gru versus Megamind. I still don't think it was a bad episode, but it was just overall underwhelming, and it was like a medium-sized fish in a big pond.
Okay.
Is the best way I can describe it.
Fair enough.
Number 5 would be Bakugo versus Reze. It has some really cool moments overall. I just don't think there's too much that makes it stand out compared to like the other 4 episodes I'm about to talk about, though. There were still cool moments, like the whole Reze eating Bakugo's sweat and that being like the whole thing that leads to the victory. I do think that was really cool. And the best thing about Bakugo versus Reze, though, was honestly, Bakugo felt so much more like his heroic self than I expected. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was very worried the whole time that he was kind of his like sort of edgelord self.
I can see that.
Right, every 5 minutes, like beginning of the series, Deku. Can I say that?
Yes. He had good characterization.
I might bleep it out.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Then number 4, I am sorry that it is this low, but Yuji versus Denji.
Ooh, okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries, I'm curious.
I don't know either series that well, so that draws it back a little bit.
Okay.
But it's not really so much a matter of this has flaws, but rather everything else is just that good, that
you
much better.
You enjoyed the
this
other
is
stuff
like a really
more.
good episode.
We've already hit the point in the list with Yuji versus Denji where it's like, nothing is really bad, it can only go up.
Exactly. Yeah.
They had some of like the best choreography. Actually, I'll say the best choreography we've had this year in terms of just general martial arts. I think that part was really cool. Not quite on the level of like Blade versus Buffy, of course.
Oh, well, that
still,
one's like unmatched. Yeah.
I don't like Blade versus Buffy.
Get out! What are you talking about?
3 is Sentry versus Prime. It did have some really cool moments, like Superboy Prime being empowered by Sentry's power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. Like, that just felt like a really unique interaction that you wouldn't see in other matchups. Then, of course, there's Prime flying out of infinity and then the Void taking over that infinity. Just one of the coolest shots ever.
Yeah.
I overall wish they made the debate feel as nuanced as like I generally perceive it as. The big thing was, of course, the retcon punch. That's like the main thing everyone talks about. I kind of wish they like brought up how that couldn't successfully kill the Darkest Night, and the fact that they waited until the post-analysis to bring up Morgan Le Fay erasing Sentry from time and Sentry coming back. Like, I feel like those are factors you can bring up earlier, and like regardless of what the result is, it makes it a bit, it feels like it's a bit more nuanced. I
think it was for dramatic effect, if that is the case.
You know, I do get it though, because usually what Death Battle will do is like if there's any sort of string you can pull on for like why a character might be able to resist something or whatever, they'll usually put that before the fight so that you're kind of questioning things as you're going in. So I do kind of get that, where it's like a lot of the possibilities for how Sentry might be able to resist something like that were kind of saved for like either in the conclusion or like the black boxes in the conclusion. So I can understand that for sure.
Number 2 is Cell versus Metal Sonic. Just very raw animation overall. I don't need to explain that. Devil Artemis absolutely cooked. Just beautiful in that regard. I found it a little weird that they started with Neo Metal Sonic. Like, I get why they did it, but it's just so weird saying that he was just casually in Neo.
When I first watched it, I thought maybe it's because they didn't think they had a good enough 3D model for Metal, but then when Metal cloned himself, it's like, oh no, they do. They definitely do.
It was definitely most likely one. It was a stylish choice, because let's be real here. Neo Metal is sick as hell.
Yeah.
But also, I think it was also to kind of like go more in depth with the, you know, his independence, because we always see Metal having his independence and like obviously the bio scanning and everything when he is in Neo Sonic. He was like it in the comics, he was like it in Sonic Heroes, which is where a lot of the inspiration for both the independence and a lot of his abilities right now come from with Metal Overlord.
So it's indicative of him starting the battle on his own, sort of thing, I guess. That like this is
that's the way I interpret it.
Okay.
Because none of his like independence is ever brought up when he's not as Neo Metal, except for a recent Sonic X DC thing.
Right. Yeah.
And that actually segues really well into my favorite part of it, and it was the exchange between Cell and Metal, where it was, does a machine like yourself ever experience fear? And then Metal saying, not anymore. Very first line, we see Cell just copying someone else. He's quoting Vegeta, showing that he can't separate himself from the warriors whose DNA he took. Meanwhile, Metal Sonic's responding and showing how he is something he believes is superior to Sonic, showing how he's sort of grown, in quotation marks,
and the whole,
into
like,
his
ultimate
own
life form. Like, I already possess his DNA. That was really cool.
Yeah.
The tone and the vibe of the characters very much comes off as if, like, these are two characters who both, quote-unquote, know that they are way better than the other guy. Of course, only one of them is right, but they are both completely under that impression, which is just great.
Yeah, very good episode. And then number 1, as I already said, was Ichigo versus Yusuke. I've already explained most of my reasoning for it, and then just on top of that, I'm not gonna lie, I have complete nostalgia bias. Yu Yu Hakusho was one of my favorite animes as a kid.
Well, for some people, that would mean this episode goes at the bottom for them, so I respect you for that.
Hey, they got Ichigo's personality perfect, and besides...
Hell yeah!
Gave us that. And that's why it's number 1.
Fair enough.
No other reason.
Right, absolutely.
I'm going to do it a little bit different because, fun fact, we have almost the exact same ranking, except for 2 episodes are in the wrong place with each other.
I have a feeling I know what those are.
I have to swap Ichigo and Yusuke with Denji versus Yuji for 1st and 4th place. Of course, I am quite a fan of both. I'm a fan of both Chainsaw and I'm a fan of JJK. Obviously, I've not really read the manga. I've been more of an anime watcher, and obviously, I've learned with Death Battle you need to be fine with spoilers, and I was perfectly fine with that. And just learning what is to come, to say the least, with Yuji especially, and with Denji, with both of them. Was fun. It was definitely a fun experience. And then you've got the animation. I've already stated I really love the animation. In a really weird way to say it, I'm just looking at it and I'm like, oh god, I want this Denji model in Fortnite. because Fortnite does the cell shading really well, and this is very on par with it. And I'm like, oh, it's quite good. But yeah, no, a lot of the battle itself was really well done. The banter between the characters was phenomenal. Obviously, Yuji thinking that Denji and Pochita are half person, half curse, and that being quite a big dynamic for the fight, especially when it comes to the end when he does die, and he's like, oh, a brother, them two being brothers. Yeah, that's a first for him. Especially because I'm pretty sure they're interpreting Yuji as actually being older in a weird sense, but who knows. Him doing domain expansion and it leading to the snowy forest. Obviously, that's not what his domain looks like, from my understanding. But the fact that for the thematics, they changed the scenery to a place that is very iconic for JJK, because this was back during Shibuya incident where he chases down Mahito after he is scared utterly shitless of Yuji.
Right.
It made for a phenomenal set piece.
Yeah. The one part that again really gets me every time I watch it is just the "you messed up, baby. Pochita and I are brothers." So good. I love that.
It's so good.
The voice acting was
especially
well done.
Denji's
I think
voice,
that's something.
Denji's voice went all in on this. I have to respect the guy. He did such a good job.
I think that's something not a lot of us have actually talked about with this season. I think the voice acting is very well done. I'm sorry to say this to you, Apex. We cannot count Ichigo in this case because it's Johnny. It's so obviously Johnny, so it's not really fair when you've got the actual fucking voice actor.
For some people, that makes it better,
studio
right?
doing it.
For some people,
absolutely. Guru versus Megamind is definitely my least favorite. Bakugo versus Rize is only slightly higher than it. Ichigo versus Yu, I like it, but again, I have no attachment to that franchise, to either franchise at the moment. So personally, it's on the lower end, but it's not a bad episode. It's quite a decent episode. Superboy Prime versus Sentry. Holy shite. Prime being pre-crisis and having effectively pre-crisis scaling. It's the one meme of the guy with the exploding brain. That was me. Without a doubt, the best analysis for someone like me to just go in, and I'm like, I don't really know too much about the characters in their origins and such, and then I learned, oh my god, Prime is as crazy as he is, and he is a fanboy. Cell vs. Metal, to say the fucking least, I love that fight. It's beautiful. I'm a 3D lover when it comes to Death Battle specifically. It goes unbelievably hard on every single aspect. I think the tiniest critique I could even possibly give it was maybe Overlord being just used and then that was it. But at the same time, the way I see it is they just wanted to show off Overlord because the real meat and potatoes of the entire thing was one, Super Neo Metal, and also Neo Metal Cell, basically, going absolute ham, which I think is without a doubt the best part of the entire episode, and it is the highlight of the entire season.
I would consider ourselves lucky that we got Overlord at all, to be honest. Especially like looking like that, like as clean of a 3D model as it was. I'm just happy we got it at all.
Realistically, I could honestly move Cell versus Metal and Yuji versus Denji back and forth as my first two.
Totally.
But yeah, absolutely, it was phenomenal. And I think the least that can be said is that Sonic is fucked when he fights Metal in the future. He's got, bro has the power of all the Z fighters. That's my ranking. Of course, it's effectively the same as Apex's, except I switch Ishii versus you versus Denji and Yuji. D and U and Cell versus Metal, I can definitely swap the two around.
As far as my ranking for this, I kid you not when I say that even right now at this moment, there is only one episode where I know for a fact where it goes in my ranking. It is really difficult for me to rank this. I'll say right now, the one I know for sure is that Ichigo versus Yusuke goes fourth. And I'm sorry, Apex. I'm sorry to do this to you, but for me, I do agree with Floof that for me, it's like, this is the episode where it's like, it is good. It is good. It's just, to me, there are other episodes I like more. All the slots have to be filled. You know, sometimes it just works out like that. I did very much enjoy Ichigo versus Yusuke. However, there are just some episodes I liked more and some I liked less. And I'm sure you guys know which episodes are in which groups. Starting with the two ones at the bottom, I guess. It's very difficult, because on the one hand, yes, Gru versus Megamind is disappointing. It very easily should have been better. Whereas I think when you look at Bakugo versus Reze, it's like, yeah, I didn't really enjoy it that much, but like, was I expecting a lot more from it? Not to the same degree as like Gru versus Megamind or anything. Like, with Gru versus Megamind, it very much felt like there was wasted potential. But at the same time, I do think it did some things well. I think some parts of the animation are fun. I think it's just a matter of comparison that, yes, like, as far as the 3D fights go, Cell versus Metal and Yuji versus Denji are just so much better than it. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, I think this episode has higher highs and lower lows than Bakugo versus Reze, and I'm trying to figure out which I prefer more. And I think usually when I try to compare media like that, I generally prefer the higher highs and lower lows, just because with Bakugo versus Reze, like, I don't have any strong feelings towards it. I have strong feelings towards Gru versus Megamind, some negative, but also some positive. So, you know, I do think that is kind of telling, and I do give Gru versus Megamind a little bit of a pass, because again, with all the custom stuff they had to do, like, it makes sense to some degree. I do think it could have easily been better than it was. I am also probably a little biased, and I did honestly appreciate a decent amount of the humor that was put in there. Not all of it, but I do think a lot of the humor worked for me. So it's really, really difficult for me. I think right now I'm gonna put Bakugo versus Reze 6th and Gru versus Megamind 5th. Sorry. But I would not be surprised if by the end of the year, my opinion on Gru versus Megamind has gone down even further. I do think I like Gru versus Megamind more than the average person. I think I can say that for sure, that, like, I think the average person, you know, is more critical of Gru versus Megamind than
You are the guy with the cup in the corner. They all don't know that I'm one of the 5 Gru versus Megamind enjoyers.
But see, that's the thing, like, I'm perfectly fine with that, because why would I not want to enjoy an episode? If I can get some enjoyment out of it that maybe some other people can't, I don't see that as a bad thing. I get to enjoy part of it. Again, though, I do recognize, like, this is the first episode where it was, like, on my most wanted list, where it happened, and I could not say that I really, really liked it. Like, Stitch versus Rocket, Galactus versus Unicron, Bowser versus Eggman, Simone versus Kyle, like, these are all episodes where I was very, very satisfied with the way that they were done, and I can basically say that I love all of them. This was the first episode where I very easily cannot say that. And that is disappointing in and of itself, but I think currently, while this may change, I'm gonna put Bakugo versus Reze at the bottom, and then Gru versus Megamind 5th. And then obviously Ichigo versus Yusuke is 4th. And as far as the top 3, it's really hard. There is a part of me that wants to put Sentry versus Prime at 1, but I don't think I should, because I feel like a lot of that is just my comic bias. It also might be the recency bias, like it's really on my mind. It's one that I'm thinking about a lot. I think it had so many great elements. I think the progression of it was amazing. I think the reveal of the void and everything that it did was amazing. I think the ending is literally as perfect as it can be. And also, like Floof was saying, the analyses as well were so great to listen to. They were so thorough. Maybe there are some things they could have brought up more for Sentry in the analyses beforehand, but overall I thought they were amazing. Literally the one thing that prevents this episode from being like amazing to me, like unironically like one of my favorite episodes in recent memory or whatnot, is the fact that I really wish that we could have seen a little bit of what Superboy Prime was seeing while in the Void. To me, that's a very obvious thing that should be done, because the Void is all about the mental, psychological torture. And we got that a little bit with the Void's dialogue, but like, why didn't we see any of that? To me, that felt like a very obvious thing, even if it was just for like 5 seconds or something. I feel like that could have very easily been done, that we just see a little bit of like what the Void was doing to Prime in his head, you know, while he was being affected by it before he resisted it. If we just saw a little bit of that, that would have honestly just made it like so fucking good, like really perfect to me. But again, as a comic fan, this is still one of my favorite comic episodes in a really long time. I'm really happy that we got this, and that I hope we get more like this going forward, because it was just such a pleasant surprise. And also, Yuji versus Denji and Cell versus Metal is really difficult. For me, like, I also find them pretty interchangeable from where they could be. I do think I would put Cell versus Metal a little higher than Yuji versus Denji, just because I think that one is so solid in like every regard. I think the way they describe the characters, the way they scale the characters, and the fight itself, I think all of those are so fucking good. I think with Yuji versus Denji, while I might say that I think I enjoyed the animation a little bit more in Yuji versus Denji than Cell versus Metal, I think the analyses and the way they scale the characters, the way they explain things, I think that's overall just stronger in Cell versus Metal. So I think overall I see Cell versus Metal as more of like a well-rounded, like every aspect of it is great sort of thing, whereas I feel like I can nitpick Yuji versus Denji a little bit more. And Sentry versus Prime, even if I were to put it at like number 1 now, I feel like later in hindsight, I feel like I would want to put it lower. And like I said, you know, I'm gonna do an update to this later, probably at the end of the year. I might change things even more from what I'm expecting now, but I think just to be on the safe side, I would probably go from worst to best. I would probably say Bakugo versus Reze, Gru versus Megamind, Ichigo versus Yusuke, reluctantly Sentry versus Prime, because I still really like it, and then Yuji versus Denji, and then Cell versus Metal. But this is very subject to change. A little different from you guys' ranking, but I think that's how I would say it for now.
I can get behind that.
I can live with it.
Look, at the end of the day, we all agree that Bakugo and Gru are like the bottom 2 for now. And the way I've seen it is that we've all kind of mutually agreed the top 4 are good plus.
Yeah.
The lower 2 are mid at best.
All right, so that's great. Thank you guys so much for sharing your lists, and thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it a ton. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, comment your comments down below, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and like I said before, we do have the join button down below if you want to become a member and get in on some cool perks. But other than that, thank you for listening to the podcast. We appreciate it tons. Share your own rankings if you want. You probably don't need me to tell you that. You're probably going to do it anyway, but share your own rankings if you want. But yeah, that's it from us. That is a wrap. Good night, everybody. Yeah, and as far as sorry, let me just get my notes really quick.
I love seeing how deep your voice goes versus how high it goes when you're actually recording.
Oh, really? Does that happen?
Yeah, like how you have like a work voice almost.
Well, it's the YouTube.